Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. I want to talk about getting rich by being relentless. Being relentless means you set a goal and you keep going no matter what happens, no matter what rough patches show up in the road. You keep going. So this is about getting wealthy. Most of us when we're younger, we think to ourselves, I'd like enough money to be able to quit my job. I'd like to be self-employed. I'd like to be wealthy. It's pretty common and it's pretty doable too. You just have to be a little bit relentless about it and keep going despite things that come up. And in the beginning, it may not be clear how it's going to happen. It was not clear to me how to get that goal, how to become independent so I didn't need a job and so on. It was not clear how to make that happen. So it was trial and error, basically. There was some trial and error involved. Anybody can do this. Anybody can use trial and error to find the right path. I was not a trust fund kid. The people I've met through my life who became wealthy, starting from nothing, were not trust fund kids. So it's definitely possible in this country to start from nothing and to become wealthy. So I'm going to give an example in this video about being relentless, how to apply this idea. It can require patience along the way. You have to put up with some rough patches sometimes, but it's worth it. Not having to have a boss, having complete control over all your time, not just free time after work, but all your time. It's really worth it to have this as a goal and to work towards achieving it. Okay, so here's my story. Went to college, computer science at Berkeley, had some college friends, obviously, in the computer science program. Ended up starting a software company after college, but I'll get to that in a second. I was working as a software engineer. My wife was working. And I would watch TV late at night sometimes. There were real estate infomercials from time to time. Usually they lasted about a half an hour and they talked about investing in real estate. I didn't have anyone in my family to talk to about that. No one in my family at that time was a real estate investor. Nor did I have any friends, I was a kid, who was doing this and making it work. So I saw these infomercials. I bought some books on it. I finally became convinced, yes, this is possible. It may not be probable, but there is a possible path to make this work. So I bought my first apartment building, my first property, piece of real estate. It was a 9-unit apartment building. The very first video on my channel is titled How to Turn 40,000 into 6.35 million. I present the story of how I bought that and what happened. I mean, long story short, I was a software engineer with no experience owning or operating a home, much less a 9-unit apartment building. And my boss at the time thought he thought I was crazy for doing it, but I wanted to do it, and it was not that easy. It was a bit challenging. There were a lot of rough patches. I stuck with it. That very first deal, I made money on that. I mean, not only from the rental income, but the property went up in value. So it ended up being a leap of faith that turned into a lot of challenges through the ownership period, and then several years later selling it. So I ended up then going to graduate business school, and along the way in here, I'm involved in tech startups. I went to graduate business school. I continued to operate. I had a couple of tech service businesses, training, software development, while I was in graduate school. And I kept buying real estate. So at the time, in those days, this lean startup methodology that came out of lean manufacturing, which I believe was from Japan originally, lean startup became a methodology, and one of the taglines was fail fast. If you have an idea and you launch it and it doesn't work, if it fails quickly, iterate or give up. And a lot of people at that time pivoted to some totally new idea. In other words, they would have an idea, they would execute on the idea, it wouldn't work, and they would abandon everything in that idea and try a totally new idea. They would pivot from one idea to another. So I do not advise that, because quitting is a mistake. You're learning a lot as you go. And the opportunity is this: when you have a startup, if it's not working, do not do a wholesale abandonment of everything. This is something I learned over time. This lean startup idea, you have to take that with a grain of salt, fail fast. You're not failing, you just haven't figured out the right ingredients. It's just like anything else when you're trying to learn something and you don't know how to actually learn everything you need to do in the right sequence. The best approach is to change one element of this idea that you've got at a time. And if that one change doesn't bring out the right outcome, then try one other change. But don't do a wholesale abandonment of the entire idea. Don't quit on yourself. Just change one thing. Identify, you can make a list of the 10 things most likely to have a positive impact and go down the list, change one thing at a time until you get traction and something starts to work. doing a complete abandonment, which is what happened to me at some point here, is a mistake. So let me dive into that story. So again, the lean startup, the fail fast, don't quit, because there's a lot of learning that you can still obtain if you change one thing at a time. So my first tech startup was right after college. So I had several friends in college. We were all writing software. We were all good friends. We would be in the computer lab writing code. We did all-nighters more than one day in a row to finish software projects that were due. And so we knew we had good work ethics. We knew we got along with each other. So two of my friends and I started this help desk software company. Help desk software is basically used by whenever you call in for help with the product you've bought. There's a software tool that the representatives are using. It's called help desk software that helps the company keep track of who's called in on what product, what were the solutions, how many problems have we had with this particular product, and so on. So we started this help desk software company right out of college. Now we brainstormed a bunch of ideas, and we just landed on this one. I don't remember why this one seemed appealing, but that's what we ended up starting. And we started having disagreements on the viability of the idea. The three of us. And there was one team member in particular, one friend out of the three of us, who really did not think highly of the idea, and his work input reflected that. So you've got two people pulling a three-man company, and so that's challenging. That's very difficult. So there's a couple of options. You can either fire one of your friends and continue on with the two remaining friends, or you can say, I value the friendship over the economic benefit of having the company work out. And so we ended up setting aside this project, this help desk software startup, after about a half a year, after several months. We walked away from it. What we should have done, or what we could have done, is we could have had a chat and saying, we all have a great work ethic, but we were all working full-time software engineering jobs in Silicon Valley. We were doing this on the side. So some people might say it's understandable why one of your three friends may not have been super enthusiastic to give up all his free time, especially after the grind of an engineering program at Berkeley. And so that's part of what led us into, okay, let's just walk away from this. It's not working out. But what we could have done is we could have intelligently sat down and said, look, we all need to have a certain amount of enthusiasm to make this work, and it's pretty clear that one of us is not there. So what we'd like to do is ask that third person if they would be okay if we continue on without them. That would have been a reasonable option. I don't know how that would have come out, but that's part of being relentless, is to say, this is a good idea. At least two of the three of us are enthusiastic about it. Let's keep going. So that would have been a relentless way to keep tracking on this idea. And that's not what happened. Okay, so we set this aside. We basically stopped working on that project. And my two friends totally abandoned it. They never came back to it. I, on the other hand, I knew what I wanted. I wanted that idea to come to life. I thought it had promise. So there was an opportunity to join a startup that was working on a similar product. It wasn't exactly like what we had in mind, but it was similar. I joined this startup as an employee. Now, this is part of being relentless. Becoming an employee at my own idea kind of sucked, because here we were with the potential to be the owners of this company, which is what we had intended. And now I'm an employee at my own idea. And this took several months to find this opportunity to join this startup that was related. But this is part of accepting the bumps in the road, part of being relentless, because the goal was, I want to get rich. I'm in Silicon Valley. I've got a degree from a good school in software engineering. A lot of people I know have gotten rich in this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this work somehow. I joined the startup, and it was a lot of work, all, working nights till midnight, working 7 days a week. But that idea turned out, this help desk software idea, I was right. I was correct to keep pursuing it, because the company that I joined as an employee went public. And I was a fairly early employee, so I did pretty well. It was not exactly what we had in mind, because when we started this, we wanted to be the top of the food chain in the company, and here I was, an employee in my own idea, sort of. But if you're relentless about what you want as an outcome, you become willing to sacrifice some aspects of it. As long as you get that final reward, you can make this work. I know a lot of people who did something like this. I've got a family member in a trades type of business trades, meaning plumbing, electrical, heating, and air conditioning, who did the same thing that I did, of a family member who had to persevere and relentlessly pursue that goal of becoming wealthy and having his own company. He did the same thing. So this is not just a software thing, is what I'm trying to say. It's not just a technology thing. You can make this approach work. You just have to say, I'm going to be relentless towards this goal. I want to get rich. I want to be my own boss. I want to be wealthy. I want to be self-employed. I don't know how to make that work, but I'm going to start along this path. I'm going to keep trying stuff until I find something that works. The most important thing you can do is not what we did, though. Bailing on that idea after, we thought it was a good idea, or we wouldn't have started it. One of our friends lost confidence. And what we should have done was said, look, we're going to change one thing and see if that makes a difference. And then ask that person to step aside because he was not that enthusiastic. So that's kind of the takeaway. If you get nothing else from this, is if you have an idea and you start down this path to becoming rich, and it's not working out, don't abandon the whole freaking thing. Try one change. Make a list of 10 things you might entertain changing to see if that will move you further along and get you over the rough period. And if that one doesn't work, try the next one on the list, and then keep going until you get traction. Because what I had to do was I had to totally give up and let my two friends abandon everything, become an employee in my own idea, work very hard, and wait for the thing to go public. I didn't even know if it was going to go public when I joined it. It was a startup. Most startups don't succeed. Most startups fail. But I was willing to take the chance. I thought the idea was good. It was a great idea. Had we stuck with this, but at least I got a piece of what I originally had wanted. And so if the three of us had persisted, all of us would have made out, because we would have gotten to the market before this company that I joined. We would have been there first. We would have been in the marketplace before they got there. But everyone has to be pulling the cart the same amount. You can't have a laggard that you're always having to drag along with you. It's very difficult when that happens. So if you have any questions about this, the whole point that I wanted to get across is you can get rich, even if you have no idea how to get there. You just have to, a key part for us was the brainstorming we did to come up with an idea. Do some brainstorming alone or with some friends. Learn how to do brainstorming. You can you can read something online about how to do brainstorming the right way. And then start down a path. If you know you've got a good idea, when you hit a rough patch, which you might, change one thing and see if that helps. Then change one other thing. But don't change multiple things at the same time, because then it's not clear exactly what the turnaround was. Because there can be one ingredient that makes a company succeed among all others. And so if you change multiple things at the same time, it's a mess. Just change one small element at a time and keep relentlessly pursuing the goal. I actually ended up, compared to my two friends, I ended up much better, because just a short time after we abandoned this, I was at a company that had just gone public, a software startup that I was an early employee at, that stock options. Startups give the technical staff, I was a software engineer, stock options. So they quit. I kept going. I made out. So you just have to relentlessly pursue this idea of being self-employed, not having a boss, and so on. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything about the technology part of it, or about the path, the difficulties and the challenges that you can face. And it's worth it to keep going despite those challenges. You can post questions in the comments, but I'd really like to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.